My name is Marita Hill, and I'm doing a special occasion speech for my speech class on my father who passed away March 1st. My father's name was Russell Lester Morrow. He was born in Llano, Texas. He was born June 27, 1937, and passed on March 1st, 2009. My father was a missionary from 1954 to 1979 in Jamaica, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Mexico. From 1979 to 1990, he pastored Church of the Fishermen here in Georgetown, Texas. And in 1991, they began to travel back to China as missionaries. And in 1993, they traveled again to China and to the Ukraine, and also taught with YWAM, which is Youth with a Mission. And again, they made another trip to China in 1997. My father had 9 children. There are 20 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. He's preceded in death by his wife, Laura Nell Morrow, and remarried in 1978 to my mother, Elizabeth Morrow. And here I'd like to stop and say the reason why my dad is so special to me is that my real father didn't want to have anything really anymore to do with us. And when I was 10, my father stepped in my life. And I'm so glad, because when you have a stepfather who loves you the way my father did, he loved me because he wanted to, not because I was just born to him. And I think for me, that's something very special. He also taught me about God and how to love myself, and those things have carried me through life. And I'd like to tell you some of the things my dad used to say. If he met you in the grocery store and people said, "Hey, Pastor Morrow, how are you doing?" he'd say, "Same old usual wonderful me," and just smile. And also, when we were leaving an occasion or people we were talking to, of course, my dad was such a friendly person. He loved everybody. We could be standing in a line at Six Flags. You know, there's 6 people in front of us and 6 people behind us. And it was usually a little child he started playing with that started the whole thing. but as you left, whenever you see my dad, he said, "Well, I'm glad you got to see me." That's one thing he used to say. And he'd also say, "I'm blessed." He just always said that he was blessed. Some of the stories my dad used to tell from the pulpit was one he used to preach on, that the devil's got a knot in his tail, meaning the fact that Satan deceived Eve by saying, "Well, you will not surely die." So always question the knots. In another story my dad used to tell from the pulpit about my sister, she said to him one time, "You know what's so great about having you wrapped around my little finger?" She said, "Knowing it." And they always used to blame that on me, and it never was. It was my sister. And they would do that in the middle of when we were young, and I was just like, "Oh, it was not me." And I was always pointing to my sister when he would say that from the pulpit. My dad loved to take us on vacations. We went to Colorado, we went snowing, we went to Washington, D.C. to see all the Smithsonians. And my dad loved history. He graduated valedictorian of his class. He also was offered 2 football scholarships and a boxing scholarship, and instead he chose to go to seminary and become a pastor. And I'm very grateful because it changed my life. And in one of the vacation trips we went to Colorado, I think we went there a couple of times. And of course there was always an extra family member. Well, it really wasn't a family member, it was just somebody who came along, was one of our friends or something like that. Since there was always so many of us, and as we got older and got married, there were a lot more of us then. And so anybody extra come along was not a problem, because typically we had more than enough room because you had to rent something so big to get anywhere you wanted to go. But we had rented this huge RV from the gentleman in Georgetown, and we set out and traveled all the way to Colorado. And as we were going up the mountains, if you don't put a little diesel in the fuel tank, you'll have vapor lock. As in Texas, we don't know anything about vapor locking much, but in Colorado, you find out a lot when you're a Texan. And so I think this is happening all the way up the mountain, and finally, I don't know, something broke, and so the RV was dead, and we pulled into this little grocery store. And when you're in Colorado, up in the mountains to Crested Butte, I mean, there's not a whole lot of places. And So we pulled over, and so it was hot because it was like the first week in May, and the snow was melting and all these little rivers all over the place. And so my mom said, okay, you guys can go in the store to try to keep cool, but she says, if I catch you touching anything, you're going out to the RV and sitting. And I was like, so one at a time. I didn't even was touching something. It was like this. Mom came around the corner. She's like, RV, and I was like, oh, crud. So at one by one, we all started going out there, and so we were all sitting in this hot RV talking. We were going, well, what'd you touch? And they said, well, I didn't really, and each one of us went around and said what we touched. And we looked up, and here comes my dad, just walking with his head down towards the RV. And my dad rounded the corner and opened the door, and we all shouted, well, what'd you touch? And we just all busted out laughing. And on every one of our trips, we had such a great time. And I'm certainly going to miss my father, because he made such a great impact on my life. But I am glad he's in a better place now. And so I just wanted to tell my dad that I really love you. And I'm glad and thankful that you gave me everything that you did, and mainly inside of me and in my heart. Because that's what a person is made of. Thank you.